It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Tamala Compton. We were just outside talking, and she is the first named African-American principal, but we want to give honor to Miss Geneva, who was the first African-American principal before Dr. Tamala Compton. We want to give her honor right now, and I'll let her tell her story. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you so much.
All right, I need you every morning, just stationed in the living room to give me some intro music, that will get me going. But good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you for being here at the historic Central High School. I am truly honored to welcome you to my home. I want to start out just my opening with just a line from a poem that has resonated with me my entire life. I think when I first heard these words from Maya Angelou, it really spoke to me, and it has been my guide. It has been my GPS ever since I started this journey of leadership. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size, but when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say, it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl in my lips. I'm a woman phenomenally. Phenomenal woman, that's me. I would like to officially welcome everyone home to the historic Central High School. I am, again, the very proud principal here at Central High School, Dr. Tamala Compton. I am honored to be able to host the Women's Equality Day here at the historic Central High School, the first educational institute in Jefferson County built for the advancement of African American students. Standing in almost 150 years of excellence, we continue to be a pillar in the Russell area, providing education to all students by way of a robust career and magnet program. Did you know that Central High School plays host to your future doctors, your future lawyers, your future engineers, your future businessmen, your future business sports medicine, your future teachers, your future judges? Your future is right here at the historic Central High School. We have 11 magnet programs, all in the field of allied health, STEM, business, vet science, law and government, and teaching and learning, and yes, dental. Our vision is to produce leaders of positive social change, community action-oriented citizens who stand in the light of equity. It's no mistake what we are producing here at Central. As I like to say, it is by design. We want our students to find their voice and to use it. So again, today, I don't want to stand in front of this agenda because it is jam-packed and it is powerful, but I want to welcome you to Central as we are proud to host today's event. Central is more than just a school, it's a light. As my late father would say, it's a lighthouse. The purpose of a lighthouse was used to guide ships safely into the harbor. It was to keep things out of danger, to make sure that people could find a way home. Well, Central is our community's lighthouse, committed to keeping students in the community safe and out of dangerous times. We are a home. So I think it's only fitting for me to say to you this morning, welcome home to Central High School. Thank you.
All right, everyone say, I'm glad to be home. Say, I'm glad to be home. Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Compton. Next, we will have a performance by Bina Wells, Central High School class of 2025. Let us welcome Ms. Wells.
I wanna leave my footprints on the sands of time. Knew there was something that meant something that I left behind. When I leave this world, I'll leave no regrets. Leave something to remember so they won't forget I was here. I lived, I loved, I was here. I did, I've done everything that I wanted, and it was more than I thought it would be. I will leave my mark so everyone will know I was here. I wanna say I lived each day until I die, and know that I'm in something in somebody's life. The hearts I have touched will be the proof that I leave, that I made a difference, and this world will see I was here. I lived, I loved, I was here. I did, I've done everything that I wanted, and it more than I thought it would be. I will leave my mark so everyone will know I was here. I lived, I loved, I was here. I did, I've done everything that I wanted, and it was more than I thought it would be. I will leave my mark so everyone will know I was here. I just want them to know that I gave my all, did my best, brought someone some happiness, made this world a little better just because I was here. I was here. I lived, I loved, I was here. I did, I've done everything that I wanted, and it was more than I thought it would be. I will leave my mark so everyone will know I was here. I lived, I loved, I was here. Everything that I wanted, and it was more than I thought it would be. So everyone will know I was here.
At this time, we will hear from Deputy Mayor Nicole George as she gives us a proclamation for Women's Equality Day. Nicole has dedicated her professional career to helping Kentucky's children grow up to live healthy and productive lives. She has years of experience helping families overcome circumstances and challenges. We welcome Deputy Mayor Nicole George.
Thank you. Well, that was such a tough act to follow in the way of singing, so let me apologize for being a considerable disappointment on that front. But on all serious front, I just want to say, first of all, I would not be able to serve the city in this capacity if it were not for the work of the Office for Women and all the women in this room and the sponsors for today's event. Because of your work and your commitment, every day is Women's Equality Day. And again, if it weren't for women supporting women, I would not be able to serve the city in this capacity. So something important to think about as we're here today, the value of support to each other. One colleague in particular that I see in front who is known for being a supporter of women and was certainly a supporter to me when we served on the council together is, of course, Council Member Dr. Paula McCraney. Always a good ear and good advice, and so that's how some of that support looks. Also, my understanding is Deputy Mayor David James is here. Where is Deputy Mayor James? Yes, in the back. Just to state the obvious, any gains in equality have to come alongside and with the men in our lives to be able to help support us. So Deputy Mayor James certainly has a reputation for that, and I'm grateful. Okay. All right, all this to say, I'm honored to be here today on behalf of Mayor Greenberg, and just want to bring the proclamation that says, greetings to all whom these present shall come. Know thee that August the 26th, 2024 is hereby proclaimed in Louisville, Kentucky to be Women's Equality Day, and I urge all residents to observe this special recognition. So thank you, thanks to the Office of Women. Look at this beautiful young woman here today to accept an honor. Without you, young person, we would have less hope in the way of the future and equality. So thank you for all you're doing. All right. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. It's been an honor to be here.
Are you all ready to party? Are you ready to dance? We will have a musical break by DJ Bombshell. Burr, 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 burr. We're starting immediately. Okay, let's go. But before we get to the dancing part, I wanted to do some quick affirmations because I'm becoming that affirmation DJ. So before we shake our bottoms, because we need that, that's also a form of everything. We need it for all the things. Repeat after me if you like out loud to yourself. Here are some affirmations for women that are pursuing, we are all pursuing equality. So here we go. I am a warrior and I conquer life's battles. Love that. My strength is a source of inspiration for others. Yes. And guess what? Your challenges make me stronger and wiser. I'm sorry, there was no your. There was no your. I was just like segueing into it. Challenges make me stronger and wiser. Here's the best one. I face adversity with grace and determination. Because you're a star. Give yourself a round of applause. Everybody say, we improvise. Can you hear me? Say, we improvise. We modify. We adapt. And we overcome. Say it again. Say, we improvise. We modify. We adapt. And we overcome. Give yourself a round of applause. At this time, I want to invite remarks from the Office of Women Ambassadors, League of Women Voters, and Delta Sigma Theta. From Office of Women Ambassadors, we have Erica Viva Ramas and Regina Caraco. From the League of Women Voters, we have Sandra Renner, and from Delta Sigma Theta, we have Roz Well. Let's give them all a round of applause.
Hello, I'm a little nervous, but okay. So, my name is Erica Viva Ramos. I'm a first generation Latina 2018 high school graduate from Dawes High School and a 2022 first generation college graduate where I obtained my dual degree in criminal justice and social justice from Eastern Kentucky University and a proud member of the illustrious Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. I have recently graduated from the Office for Women Class of 2024 Ambassador Program. Building generational wealth while being the change can be exhausting and sometimes can feel impossible. Prior to having the privilege of giving remarks today, about 9 years ago, between the ages of 15 and 16 years old, I had been in and out of the juvenile system right here in Louisville. The first time I sat at the detention center, the last time I sat at the detention center, change and advocacy was what kept me motivated to do something different and not what was already expected of me. Shortly after graduating EKU, I landed a job with the state, and the parking garage just so happened to be right across the street where little old me was housed as a teenager 7 years ago. At first, I would walk quickly past the building. You would have thought that I was a gold medal Olympian specializing in walking. Then one day, I stopped where I had been housed. At first, it reminded me of the statistics expected of me before I ever even had a chance, and the feeling of being lost, but then it reminded me of my resilience. It reminded me of why I became passionate and about why I love being civically engaged and assisting those that historically have not been civically engaged, not because they didn't want to, but because of inequities. There are community members currently impacted that may not know that they are currently experiencing inequities, such as gender inequities. I believe that opportunities to go over equities, inequities, different ways that it can look in different places and spaces, and learning how to be civically engaged can be the difference on how we can move forward to promote equity. Office for Women helped me take my lived experience alongside with my interest of youth advocacy to another level. The ideas and conversation curated over the past few months have been some of the best conversations I have ever had. Office for Women raises the status of women and gender diverse individuals by advancing gender equity through policy, programs, and education, such as supporting economic empowerment and gender equity, increasing capacity on gender equity, and promoting civic engagement of women and girls, such as today's phenomenal event. As Gretchen instilled in me, when women are denied their full potential, our entire community suffers. Women's equality is human equality.
Can you give Erica another round of applause? She's really nervous about speaking today. All right. Good morning. I would like to be vulnerable with all of you for a moment. I obviously present like your basic white lady, and that gives me a certain privilege in the world. A privilege that I never realized until I became an adult and had to re-examine the environment I grew up in. I was raised by two parents who are in the baby boomer generation, and I grew up in the 90s and 2000s. So I'm sure all of you could think of the gender and racial stereotypes that were reinforced during that time. It wasn't until I started meeting people from different gender and racial minorities that forced me to go, wait, this contradicts what I initially knew. In college, I learned I was 1 out of 4 who was a victim of childhood sexual abuse, and 1 out of 6 a victim of sexual assault. I finally began meeting people who shared life experiences and realized that I wasn't alone. And this lit a fire within me to start speaking out against inequality. I met people in the LGBTQIA community, and they showed me the inequities they face and still currently face. It was only in 2015 that queer people could legally marry the love of their lives. Trans people face insane obstacles in obtaining gender-affirming care and face discrimination by healthcare professionals. It wasn't It was after the untimely death of Breonna Taylor that I had to get real uncomfortable about understanding white privilege. I had my eyes open to the level of inequality and inequity that occurs on a daily basis as a human being and as a paramedic. Now, this speech isn't a complete downer, I promise. While we do have a lot of work to do, I'd like to share some experiences from my professional life that forced me to pause and just say, how amazing is this? While waiting to triage a patient at our trauma center, I watched a team of all female presenting physicians walk into room 9 to consult with the emergency department about the next steps for a patient. After dropping off a critical patient to one of our local hospitals, I, a gender fluid paramedic, provided a report about a patient and watched a team that included a female emergency room physician, all female nurses, and a female emergency room technician work together to save and stabilize this patient. I was blown away by this, that I even stood there and said, there's an all-female team working right now. How amazing is this? Our EMS community is widespread, and we have a tendency of either knowing everybody, recognizing a name, or having one degree of separation. One of our local suburban fire departments posted on their social media that they had an EMS platoon of all women that day. Now, I'm a thorn in my department's side about improving the diversity of our employees, which they've made some major improvements in the last 2 to 3 years. But seeing a neighboring department be able to have an entire platoon of women invigorates me. And also knowing that a different neighboring fire department promoted a woman to the position of colonel, becoming the first executive assistant chief in the history of the department. It encourages me to continue leading by example. My name is Regina Vicarico, and I had the honor and privilege of being chosen as the ambassador in the inaugural Office for Women Ambassador Program in 2023. As somebody who has an interesting story and perspective, I don't want certain privileges to give my story precedent over someone else's. That's the beautiful thing about the Ambassador Program. We all were given a seat at the table. We all were given the opportunity to speak and provide our input. We learned, supported, and grew from listening to each other. We were vulnerable with each other, allowing room for uncomfortable conversations to happen to make us better community leaders and ambassadors. One of the goals of this office is to promote equality of women and gender diverse individuals because women's equality is human equality. It's because of this goal I was able to watch and experience all female or female presenting teams within firefighting, emergency medical services, and healthcare. And it's because of this goal that I will continue setting my heart ablaze in this fight for human equality.
Thank you for sharing those stories. The rights of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. I'm Sandra Renner. I'm co-president of the League of Women Voters, and we're so happy to be involved in this event. The League has been involved since it began and has been involved in women's equality issues for over 100 years. Women's Equality Day reminds us of the many hurdles overcome by women who face violence and discrimination in their efforts to advance equality. The League was established in 1920 at the same time that the 19th Amendment, giving the women the right to vote, was passed. Originally, the League's mission was to educate women about voting now that they could not be prohibited from voting because they were women. The Louisville League was also created then, and we've been working for over 104 years to empower voters and advocate for democracy. One of our primary activities is registering people to vote. Last year, we registered over 1,400 citizens and provided information to many more. We register students at Louisville high schools and colleges, we attend naturalization ceremonies, and we register voters at various events. However, the League of 2024 is about more than registering voters. We believe that democracy works best when people are educated on the issues and turn out to vote. Susan B. Anthony said, Someone struggled for your right to vote. Use it. And I would add that people have died for your right to vote. As a result, the League sponsors and participates in various activities and events to get out the vote. Of all the industrialized democracies, the United States is at the low end of voter turnout. I think the last presidential election was about 62% of registered voters. So the League is canvassing, talking, texting, and encouraging everyone to vote. We work with a variety of partners on this effort. We also believe every issue is a voting issue, so we work to inform the community. We have volunteers who monitor Metro Council meetings. We have volunteer committees studying issues such as housing, crime, environment, health, and education. We don't just study an issue, though. We have regular programs for the public on these topics and periodically publish information about them. The League is nonpartisan and volunteer-led. As do many organizations, we do take positions on various issues such as public education and women's rights, but we don't support any candidate or parties. We are not just for women. Anyone 16 or over can become a member. You can join at our website or at the table of the hallway. Today, the Louisville League has over 250 members, and we partner with 5 other leagues in Kentucky and the state and national league. So join us, volunteer to help, get out the vote. As you leave today and get ready for the election in November, I'd like to leave you with a quote from Thomas Jefferson. We do not have government by the majority. We have a government by the majority who vote. Thank you.
What's up? Good morning, still. I had an 8:30 meeting this morning, and I was like, everything that you see is an illusion because I am not a morning person. But y'all got me about the right time. I started to wake up around 11 in my brain. Well, good morning. My name is Roz Welch, and I have the privilege to be the president of the Louisville Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and I am so stoked to be here. Are you all excited? Baby, when I tell you, we are so excited to join forces with the Office of Women for this grand Equality Day. Our organization was started January 13th, 1913, and one of our first acts was to walk in the Women's Suffrage March. And as an organization, we said we're gonna take a stance on social action, and we're gonna step out there. We were pushed to the back of the parade. As some of you all know about the parade, it got a little out of order, right? Security wasn't like it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a nice, peaceful protest, and we ended up with hecklers and people throwing things and calling people out, but we still marched. Every one of those women marched down Pennsylvania Avenue to start the conversation on the right for women to vote. And it took 7 more years before we gained the constitutional right to vote in 1920. And as much as we said, 1920 we got the right to vote, we also knew that wasn't the right for every citizen to vote. And so you had a civil rights movement that moved forward that allowed that expansion of voter rights to all people and removed some of the barriers that were created to stop people from voting. Well, then you had the ERA, and they were like, we're gonna make sure y'all don't pass nothing against us. But we couldn't get it passed. But it's okay, because we're still fighting. We're still moving things forward. Because we understand and we know that women's equality is equality for everyone. And we won't stop until we reach that destination. And it's gonna take a couple fights. It's gonna take a couple of showing ups. My aunt, my Aunt Jean, she's my oldest aunt. She's 92 this year. She was the first female technician for Sears and Roebuck. She worked on tractors. Now in headquarters, there were only men's restrooms. And so she came in around week 2, and the guys had welded a sign in front of restroom that said jeans room. And they had stolen potpourri from their own houses to make it look a little bit more feminine. And she laughed and she said, y'all wives is gonna want all this stuff back. But that was diversity, equity, and inclusion in 1950. And if in 1950s, my aunt, who could not realize the true effort of voting in the state of Kentucky because of Jim Crow laws and because of testing and because of poll taxes, but yet she was made to feel welcome within her own job, means that today we need to be doing the same thing. And that fight doesn't stop. Of course, this week has been a great week for women. I just came back from DNC and had the opportunity to see history in the making. And there's a glass ceiling that we still haven't broke. We applauded Hillary Clinton and her fight for justice and getting to the position of President of the United States. And we also have another fight this year to finally shatter the ceiling of the place of authority within this government that has been left and kept away from women for too many years. So, during the confirmation trial for Justice Kavanaugh, Senator Harris said at that time, are there any laws that give the government the power over the male body? Amen. His response, none that I can think of. And today, we have the same issue. Have we achieved equality? No. But are we pressing forward to equality? Hell yes. Every single day, we step forward in this fight as we continue to march. As we celebrate Women's Equality Day, we can't just rejoice in that one right to vote. We gotta push forward and expand it. We gotta expand it because we're fighting for women who have fought for us to have these rights and were turned away so many times. We're fighting for the rights our grandmothers fought for. We're fighting for the rights our daughters and nieces and cousins and community members all need. So if you are wondering where you fit in the line, I don't care if you get in the march in the front, in the back, in the side, but I need you to get in line. So I'll leave you with this. Sojourner Truth said in her famous I Ain't Our Woman speech, if the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, then these women ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. And now that's what they're asking to do. And the men better let them. I'm gonna add better yet, fellas, join us, because it will take all of us. So let's get to work and continue to fight for the realization of true women's equality. Thank you so much.
From Erica, we learned we don't have to walk past our mistakes. From Regina, we learned that it's okay to be vulnerable. Sandra told us that we need to keep on working 100 years out. Democracy works better when we all turn out. Oh, that was a bar. You didn't get it. That was a bar. I think I did a little rap. I rap, yes I did. Roz told us what? That we still need to march and move forward, and that women's equality is a fight for everyone, and to get in line, the front, the middle, the back, or whatever, you and I need to what? Get in line. At this time, I want to introduce to you the International Day of the Girl, the first International Day of the Girl event that I know of, and I said I, was held here at Central High School, and it was spearheaded by Dr. Kamala. I just want to call you Kamala. I keep wanting to call you Kamala. Dr. Compton. I keep calling you Kamala. Maybe that's where you're going next. Amen. That's where you're going next. Superintendent, I guess that's where you're going next. So, I'm about to say it again. Compton, excellent. And we have Celia Beeler, who is the Central High School Senior Class President, who is going to speak. Let's give her a round of applause.
Ladies and gentlemen, faculty, students, and honored guests, my name is Talia Beeler, and I'm the senior class president here at Central. Before I get started, I just want to say, please excuse my voice. I'm also a cheerleader here, and let's just say last night was a night. Today, we gather to celebrate an important milestone in our journey towards equality, Women's Equality Day. This day serves as a reminder of how far we've come in advocating for women's rights, but also highlighting the work that still lies ahead. Here at Central, we believe that empowering young women is not essential, it is vital. Every October, during our assembly, we dedicate to celebrating here at Central. We create an environment where every girl knows she matters. A message echoed through each shirt worn proudly by the students who stand together in solidarity. This year will be no different. We'll have inspiring speakers from various backgrounds, including alumni who are making significant changes within our community, as well as current students sharing their stories and aspirations. These voices remind us that change begins with courage, the courage to speak up about issues affecting us today. Our event isn't merely a gathering, it is a powerful affirmation of identity and purpose. It reinforces the idea that when one woman rises, she lifts others along with her, and this ripple effect creates waves of positive change throughout society. As part of International Day of the Girl celebration globally, recognized on October 11th, we reaffirm our commitment here at Central to uplift every girl's voice to know that they matter deeply, not only today, but always.
Miss, you need to take your walk and get your applause. Take your bow. Take your bow. James Brown said, express yourself. What's the date? October what? October what? October what? Talk to somebody, say October 11th. Where do we need to be? Where do we need to what? We need to be back home. She said it's our home, so we need to be back here. Excellent job, Selena. At this time, we will have our panel discussion. Our moderator is Journalism Hall of Famer, Rachel Platt. And as I was researching Rachel, I heard her say second chapters are scary, but they matter. Who's on their second chapter? Right here, second chapters are scary, but they what? Second chapters are scary, but they matter. So I'm going to welcome Rachel up as she introduces her panel of guests. Everyone give Rachel a hand.
What a panel. All I can say is what an upcoming election. Unprecedented, would you agree? In all ways, to say the least. From Trump versus Biden, an assassination attempt, Biden dropping out, Kamala Harris now in, the vice presidential choices, the conventions, roller coaster, right? It's been crazy. And what an important time for women. That's what we want to talk about today. Not just the issues that are driving us to the polls to vote, but the weight we carry in the presidential election and its outcome. Women comprise the largest group of registered voters. We tend to turn out in very high levels to vote. 68.4% of women turned out in the 2020 election, but as with anything, we do not all vote alike. And what drives us to the polls can vary, and we're going to talk about that today in the panel, and I have things that is driving the audience to the polls as well. We're going to discuss that. First, I want to introduce our panel. We had them come up with their own line to introduce themselves. So welcome Laura Douglas. a lawyer, a retired LG&E executive, and currently serves as president and CEO of the West End Opportunity Partnership. Laura Douglas. Want you to say hello to Lisa Sobel right here, a lifelong Louisvillian, a millennial mom, and an accidental activist. Who's going to explain that as well. And rounding out the panel is Divya Karthikeyan. She is a race and equity reporter at Louisville Public Media. She covers the impacts of decisions made by policymakers on our local communities, the people who benefit from institutional power, and the people who lose out. So I would say we've got a stellar panel ready to go. All right. We're going to keep this tight, keep things going. I want to start with broad questions, then we're going to start zeroing in on some issues. Laura, when we talked, you really emphasized the personal nature and importance of voting in your family, how participating in voting takes on special meaning after your family left the South because of persecution. There is a feeling of a duty to vote. I want you to talk about that.
Absolutely. My parents were from Selma, Alabama, and I can remember growing up, being very young during the 1960s, and seeing the Selma to Montgomery March on television. It turns out that my grandfather, my mother's father, participated in that march, and it had a profound effect on him health-wise, because there was violence, of course, that was taken out against those who were marchers. But sitting there as a youngster and watching what was happening on the television and listening to my parents talk about the importance of voting, voting became a duty for all of us as young people in our family. After knowing about our grandfather's sacrifice and participation and seeing our parents' really marked focus on voting, I cannot recollect a single election that I missed voting in, either a primary or a general, since I registered to vote. And I vote out of tribute to my parents and my grandparents.
I love that. I love that legacy. One other quick question for you, Laura. You also talked a little bit beforehand, some of us here, the opportunity to save democracy.
Yes.
You said depending on who was elected. I mean, you feel that strongly about this election, that it is a vote to save democracy. Talk about that.
Absolutely. I think we are all aware of the platforms that are before us, the kinds of things that are being said, and the concerted effort by some folks to take us back. We are not going back. The appropriate direction is forward. And there are too many folks just like me who can point to examples in their own family which will spur them to participate, to vote, and to do whatever is humanly possible to prevent us from going back. This nation's direction is forward, period.
Very good. That was a big theme, as we know, at the last convention. Lisa, let's talk to you real fast. The importance of voting and how you became what you called the accidental activist. You were one of 3 Jewish women who challenged Kentucky's abortion ban on religious grounds. Tell us about that suit, and is that how you became the accidental activist?
It is. We all know that unfortunately Roe v. Wade was overturned several years ago, and I sat there thinking to myself, well, what am I going to do? I always vote. I make sure that I vote in an educated way about the things that I care the most about. But I felt powerless. And then I had the opportunity to discuss how the decision had affected the IVF community. Being a mom who conceived through IVF, I didn't realize exactly the impact that it was having on that community until I really dug in with my now lawyers to find out what it was that was impacting the community and why so many were so concerned. And then I sat there with my friend Jessica Kalb, who is plaintiff number 2, and she said, well, we're going to do something about this. We're going to do something. And we said, Ben and Aaron, those are our lawyers, you're going to use our names. We're not gonna use pseudonyms. You're gonna use our names. You're gonna use our real stories. And we're gonna fight. And that's where we are today. We are in appeals and hoping to make a big difference and a big change.
Yes, so you were definitely, an appeal is definite.
It has been filed.
It has already been filed. We talked about the fact that a bit of a fear for you, risk having another child in a state where physicians have to wait to terminate a pregnancy until a patient is at risk of dying. That's a very real thing in this state.
It is, and it's not necessarily that your doctors get to make the decision whether or not you are imminently going to die. It is up to the lawyers to decide what imminent means. And that is a big concern because all of us know somebody who has suffered a miscarriage or struggled through infertility. And those communities matter even though they're in the shadows. Every day you don't hear about it, but it's happening. And the way that we vote makes a difference for this community.
Reproductive rights. Show of hands if that's going to drive you to the polls is one of the issues. All right, we're going to get to some other things that you all say will drive you to the polls as well. Divya, as we mentioned, you work for Louisville Public Media. We'll make sure that you get a microphone there. You've covered many of the issues that we're going to be talking about today. You came to America from India 4 years ago. You cannot vote, so this really gives you a very unique perspective. Talk about that.
Yeah, with India, I mean, when I came from India, I spent 26 of my years of my life, and I was born and brought up there. What I found interesting was America has often been this beacon of progressivism when the rest of the world looks at America. We're watching the American elections everywhere because it has been, you know, told us, we've been told that it's a superpower in the world. There is an issue of women's violence in India a lot, and that is one thing that has also driven many women to also leave their country. It's hard to walk on the street alone, or there is always this fear of having to be hyper vigilant. So when I came to America, I knew that I would have certain freedoms. One being I can walk on the street without getting harassed, unfortunately. So the bar is low. So with India, I think with voting there, women's issues, I don't want to say women's issues, they're everyone's issues. Those are really considered among our electorate, even though we have many women who turn out to vote. When I came here 2 months into moving to Kentucky, I was a state politics reporter before this. 2 months in, Roe v. Wade is overturned. And I get this sort of closer sense of what women's rights is here, what's under attack. But this is amazing because we have different government systems. We have a parliament in India and we have federal government here. What I saw was that there is such energy, there is a channeling of rage and anger that happens in India, but it's not taken very seriously. But this time, it seems like, especially women turning out to vote is so crucial. And it has been for a long time. In the 2016 elections, we saw how that, played out with Trump. He won the vote among white women, as in they really turned out. And now we're having white women for Harris, white women for Kamala. We're having these movements. And so that's something that's a little new and dynamic for me. So that's, I guess, my bird's eye view. I could keep going, but I think the way in which I've seen women's violence play out in India, and then the way that it plays out in a different way here, in that healthcare is denied.
Right.
That is, I think, what I would say is a difference for me that I've noticed.
I want to talk about the fact, one of the biggest changes that we've seen in this race, of course, was Joe Biden dropping out, Kamala Harris now in. How did that change the dynamics of this race personally for each of you?
Well, I'm a real political junkie. My undergraduate degree is in political science from the University of Louisville, so I follow elections closely. And I have, for a long time, been a Joe Biden fan. I remember when Barack Obama was running and he was trying to decide on who his vice presidential nominee should be. I kept telling people, he needs to pick Joe Biden. So I have been a Biden fan and I remain a Biden fan. When there was a controversy about whether or not he should drop out, I said, no, leave Joe alone. But when he made the decision that he was going to drop out, I said, this is clearly a man who has put his country above his own self-interest. I said, it's typical of what we've seen from Joe Biden over the span of his career. And his action has made it possible, I think, for the nation to get a new lease on life. We now have a very dramatic and marked choice to make, and women are stepping forward and encouraging everyone else to go to the polls. The Democrats now have a stellar, remarkable, intelligent, charismatic woman at the head of the ticket, and it's going to be an absolute joy between now and voting day to see what happens and to be part of the wave of folks who actually support her.
I wanted to ask you a question. Did you feel that energy shift, though, when Biden did step down?
Oh, yes.
I mean, would you all agree there was a definite
Yes.
shift in
Yes.
energy without a doubt?
Yes.
Your thoughts, Lisa, on how that changed the dynamics for you?
For me, I've always balanced the candidate with the issues. And I don't speak openly about my politics. In fact, I think half my family has no idea where I land.
Maybe not after today. I don't know, maybe, I don't know.
I think it's important that we do our research and that we listen to what's being said. I think it is exciting to see the shift and the change. And I'm also excited to see a younger population coming out, but also having a younger candidate who is closer in age to me, who has lived experiences that are similar to mine, is very exciting to see. And I will be listening for where they want to move the party and the nation before I go out and vote.
So younger, definitely. How about you, Divya?
I think when she, took over in that sense, with the candidacy, I think it reflected the plurality of American society today. That's something that we've only seen, white men get that spot, and I think that's beginning to, even speaking in terms of the DNC and what we saw in that, it's an every woman and every man, president and vice presidential pick. That's someone that is relatable, someone where people can see themselves in them, and reflects that plurality, which is why I want to say that sometimes attacks on, and we'll get to that, but attacks on, her heritage ring hollow, because we've moved on. We have a lot more, have a lot more diversity. We have what they call non-traditional families, but I'll say we have a family structure that is, that has been so fluid and so welcoming, and I think it's, I think plurality is what I saw in that, and it's a breath of fresh air, I think, for younger voters. You're not electing someone in their 80s. And so I think that's what I really saw in her candidacy and when she sort of came forward and took the spot.
I know with my own kids that there was a new excitement with them, definitely among younger voters. You brought up the topic of race. We know President Trump has questioned Harris's heritage and said she has used her blackness for political gain, that he thought she was Indian. What is your all's response? And do you think race is going to play a factor in this election? I don't know, anybody want to weigh in first?
I don't want to make any comments about the former president's role, because, his statements, because it's purely nonsense for him to question her heritage. I think that in looking at the Democratic ticket now, people are encouraged because it is like the melting pot of America. There's something there for everybody. I can say very demonstratively, though, that I know as an African-American woman, and as a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, I will do all I can to support her, and there are legions of us out there who will as well. The entire HBCU community, those graduates of HBCUs, they are on high alert. Everybody is positioning themselves to contribute. This is an exciting time in American politics, and it's not going to be possible to sit on the sidelines. There's so much in it for all of us to be excited about.
Lisa or Divya?
Well, I think that there is some rewriting of history that has happened that we've forgotten ourselves. We are a country of people that are not all of the same race, socioeconomic status, culture, background, and religion. And it is the strength of our nation that we support one another in that otherness. It is what makes us unique, that makes our country strong and should be celebrated.
Yes.
I think, again, don't want to speak directly to those comments, but I'll speak to the sentiment of them. I think there are certain people that come from a time and an era where homogeneity was celebrated in terms of looking at America as belonging to a certain race. We've kind of moved on from that in a sense. I mean, and this comes from that, when I heard those comments, I just felt like this was spaghetti on the wall, just trying whatever you can, because there's very little to criticize at that point. There was nothing substantial. And so when we go for something like that, we saw this with Obama as well. We saw the, further argument. It's sort of spaghetti on the wall. It's also coming from this era of moral panic over our society becoming different and a minority taking over. And I mean, all those attacks also still ring hollow because there's very little substance to them. No one sees, you even ask Trump where he stands on issues. He's never going to give you anything substantial. So I think that has been one piece that I saw in that, which is, this is not going to work anymore. It's not going to work.
Let me ask you all, is it the candidate or is it the issue? If you had to say what is driving you to the polls, would it be the person and their morals and their values, or issues more so, or a little bit of both?
I think it's all of the above, because we have such a dramatic contrast between the two candidates. I would, as I said earlier, I'd much rather not try to get down in the weeds and talk too much about the other candidate, because I think it's as if he presents himself as some kind of character from some past America that was perverted and screen-written anyway. It wasn't really real. But we have a real choice. We have a real choice now. We have a real choice that is about inclusion, that's about an acknowledgement that America was built on and by immigrants. That is critical for us to think of the nation again as being a conglomeration of folks who had the same interest, to see themselves as tied together, whether or not their racial or ethnic heritage is the same. This is such a contrast and an opportunity for us to return to civility.
Is that possible?
Yes, I'm holding out hope.
You're holding out
Remember,
hope to
Michelle Obama said, hope is making a comeback. And I believe that. I'm hanging on
Do
to
anybody
that.
else in the audience believe civility? Yes, is going to happen? Okay, we'll see about that. All right, Lisa.
For me, it's the issues. I think that it's very important that we listen to what is happening, because in every level of our political state, we need to find the issues that matter and make sure that our votes count in order to move the needle forward and to improve things. There are a lot of minorities of all different types that are not having their needs met because they aren't going to the polls, because they don't like this, that, or the other about the candidates that they're hearing and seeing. And they're forgetting that it's the issues and the bills that are being put forward and the political power that we have that really is guiding the country.
Divya?
I think we've talked about joy and how electric it is, the energy right now. I like to also see that there is rage also driving us to ask for more, ask for better, not even more, just the bare minimum. At this point, issues like inflation, the price of groceries, which I know Harris herself has talked about price gouging in terms of food corporations, industries, unemployment. We've heard the sentence, we've heard this over and over that unemployment is at an all-time low. People feel a little lied to there because it is hard to get jobs. It's a difficult time out there. People are still reeling from the impacts of, and it hasn't ended, the coronavirus pandemic. That is, that's another major issue. Roe v. Wade overturned. One candidate who wants to have a 15-week abortion ban on a national level. These are all, I think, people are really looking at issues because at the end of the day, I think with our politicians, there's always a cult of personality that happens. And I think people are realizing that, especially after January 6th happened. And so issues, I think, are what are driving people. How do I put food on the table? How do I pay my electricity bill? Who's going to advocate for me for a single-payer healthcare system? Who's going to do that? So
You brought up issues. Real fast, I want to go over that, and then some rapid-fire questions to you all as we wrap up this panel discussion. We asked you in the audience to fill out some of the things, so I just want to go over some. Reproductive rights, sexual and reproductive health, freedom to make any choices women want, women's issues, gender equity, how our state legislators control our freedoms without, it seems, listening to constituents, women's choice in health, national security and support of allies, genocide in Palestine, international and local business development, mitigating drug and homeless issues, abortion rights, and the last two, first woman president. So that is important to a lot of people as we heard today, breaking that glass ceiling. Let me ask you just quick rapid fire responses on these final questions. VP choice, did it matter? Does it weigh heavily? Yes or no? And then
Yes, absolutely.
Tell me why.
Because the choice that the Democrats have made for VP is an affirmation that dignity, civility, and an opportunity to focus on issues rather than personalities will be at the forefront. And primarily, I think that the choice of the VP, the whole thing about civility really came through. This is clearly someone that we would meet in the lobby at Central High School or at the Kroger store or at a Friday night football game. It is important, I think, to lift up that whole notion of civility because it makes it more likely that even as we discuss tough issues, that we are going to respect each other's dignity as we try to solve problems. That's really important.
Lisa, vice presidential candidate, that matter?
It does, because the amount of soft power that a vice president holds, we don't often see them out in front of us working the issues like we see the chief executive of this country doing. But they are the ones who are convening consensus groups to try and move the needle forward. They're the ones who are pressing for people to cross the aisle and to help make real change for our country in ways that we don't know is happening because of how much soft power they have. So it's very important who they've chosen, and it's very important to listen to the words that each use, because that lets you know how they're going to speak when they're in the rooms trying to get things done.
Vivian?
I think, as I said, he's sort of an everyman vice president. That's what he gives off. And I think people want to see, I'm not in Tim Walz's head, but I do think that people want to see someone who's not careerist, who's not someone who's simply going through positions to climb a ladder, someone who's authentic, someone who comes out there and actually says what they mean. Who sticks to that, sticks to those principles. So I think Tim Walz comes off as that. I won't say he is, but he comes off as that. And I think there's usually this case, as one of the candidates said, that vice presidential picks don't matter at the same conference where he made some interesting remarks. With the Democratic Party, we've seen that with Kamala Harris as VP and now Tim Walz, it's also a kind of symbolic shift. It's a symbolic move in a way to show that we're having someone who represents, again, plurality.
If you had to name the biggest issue that's driving you to the polls, what would it be, Laura?
Any issues having to do with women's rights. It's critical for me.
All right, Lisa?
Childcare, because women can't get ahead because of how often they hold traditional roles of taking care of the family, whether it be for children or for aging parents. We are often the ones who don't even think about it and offer ourselves up as the sacrificial lamb, and it's not until we fix childcare, schools, safety in schools, that women can truly get ahead and make a difference in the corporate world and in the economy.
Final question for Laura and Lisa, and then Divya, I'm going to have you think of one word to describe this election. So you be thinking about that one, because that's going to be a tough one. I guess why you're excited to vote and what you would say to encourage others to make sure we all show up on Election Day.
I'm excited to vote because I have an opportunity to elect the first African-American woman president, and that is a BFD as far as I'm concerned. And I'm all about it, okay? I'm all about it.
For me, it's not necessarily excitement. I find that voting is a duty. It's not just a right, but it is a duty. It is the way that we impact real change in our communities and ensure the future of our country.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for participating. Really appreciate it. All right, Divya, if you had to say, because you're covering this, if one word to describe this election, or maybe a couple, what would you say?
If I could vote, high stakes, very high stakes for democracy, very, very, very high stakes for abortion rights, for healthcare, for inflation. I think the word I would use is high stakes, a election that reflects the plurality of this and the diversity of this country.
Wonderful. Ladies, thank you all for participating. And again, I think our one takeaway, it is a BFD to vote. Thank you all so much.
Right now, we will have our art piece presentation from Sarah Jane Castellan and Sarah Blue.
Hello, how are you all today? It is such an honor to be asked to be here today. Sarah, Nori, and I are here today representing the visual arts in our community. We're both local artists. I'm an MFA student at U of L, as well as an instructor of fiber and mixed media. We're just gonna read our statement that we have out on the board, out in the lobby. We're here doing an interactive artwork. A lot of you all have participated, so thank you so much. And before you leave today, take some time to participate with us. I will let Sarah Nori begin our statement.
This installation weaves a vibrant tapestry of collective voices and shared values through an intricate web of yarns. Resembling a spider web in its complexity, our piece invites viewers to witness the interconnectedness of human experiences and the multitude of issues that bind us together. The installation is a living, breathing manifestation of our community and democracy. Each strand of yarn represents an issue of human equality, such as childcare, reproductive rights, and healthcare, chosen by you, the participants, as symbols of what matters most to you. These threads selected by you for personal significance are woven into the web, symbolizing how diverse concerns and aspirations come together to form a cohesive whole.
As the yarns are pulled and connected, they create an ever-expanding web, illustrating how individual voices and values intersect and amplify each other. This vibrant structure captures the essence of our shared human experience, where every thread contributes to the larger dynamic narrative. Visually, the installation is a burst of color and playfulness, designed to be both engaging and accessible. It stands as a testament to the beauty of collaboration and the strength found in unity. Alongside the main installation, an additional area allows visitors to create their own mini webs or weaving. We put this section in the childcare, so many of your all's children will be able to participate as well. An additional area, okay, sorry. And this is adding to the voices to the growing tapestry. This installation does not speak to, for a single perspective, rather it represents the chorus of voices coming together to weave a shared vision of a better future. It stands as a testament to the power of collective action and the intricate, beautiful web of human connection. Thank you all so much.
Excellent job. Everyone, I need you to say, every thread is a collaboration. I need you to say it again. Every thread is a collaboration. Say, every thread is a shared voice. Let's give them another round of applause. Excellent job. We will now have our call to action from Hannah L. Drake, who is a blogger, activist, public speaker, poet, and author of 11 books. She writes commentary on politics, feminism, and race. I don't know who's a bigger Beyonce fan, me or her, but I'm gonna say me. No, I think it's her. She has been featured in Harper's Bazaar and on Revolt TV. And in 2019, her poem was featured on Super Bowl Sunday. Let's give her a round of applause.
Okay. They gave me 5 minutes, so I said I'm gonna do this in 5 minutes. Right. So I'm gonna start out reading some of the prophecy by the Hopi elders. This could be a good time. There's a river flowing now fast, and it is so great and swift that there are those that will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel they are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know that the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, keep our eyes open and our heads above the water. And I say, see who is there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally. I'm even willing, this ain't part of the prophecy, but I'm gonna push 2016 to the back of my head for this time. Because this time, we all need to stand together. We need to get information. We need to show that we're in coordination. You see what I'm saying? So I'm gonna push it to the back of my head and know that this time, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey come to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves, Banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that we must do now must be done in sacred manner and celebration. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. We are the ones that will save us. We are the ones that will fight. We are the ones that have the audacity to believe that we can turn this nation right side up. We are women. We are women. And there is nothing that we can't do. We can help send people to the moon and still make a 7-course meal without breaking a sweat. We are women. Let me tell you something. If you want to destroy a nation, then you separate the women. If you want to build a nation, you unite the women. Anytime you see division, ask yourself who stands to gain, who stands to profit, who stands to benefit. United women can change the very course of history. This is our time. This is our moment. And as Dr. King said, this is the fierce urgency of now. We don't have time. This is on the job feminism. Get in where you fit in. Like she said, get in line. Let us not be remembered as the generation of women that were too late. But let us be remembered as the generation of women that dared to stand in the wind, that dared to stand in the fire and come out like pure gold. Let us be the generation of women that said enough. Let us be remembered as the generation of women that said, not on my watch. Let us be remembered as the generation of women that said, we ain't going back. Let us be remembered as the generation of women that said, women can do whatever they want with their bodies. Let us be remembered as the generation of women that said today, not tomorrow, but now is the time for change. Let us be the generation of women that dare to stand together and lift this nation on its shoulders so that everyone can rise. We are women, and there ain't a damn thing that we can't do if we stand together. Thank you. Our time. This is it. This is the fierce urgency of now. It is today. Let us not miss this moment. Let us not look back and say we had a chance. It is today. It is now. Register people alone. Go out and know. Share a tweet. Do what you can do. We are at the fight of our lives. We are fighting for democracy. It is today. It is right now. Let us look back and not say what we could have did. Today we make a decision. What kind of America do we want to live in? Today is the day.
Say today is the day. Say the time is now. Say the time is now. Say the time is now. Right now, we will have our closing remarks from Metro Councilwoman Paula McCraney. Paula lives her life with the understanding that whom much is given, much is required. Let's give her a round of applause.
Now, we've heard the call to action. We've been here today. We understand what we are called to do. We understand that we are in the moment of our lives. We understand that we are women. We are ready and we have been waiting. I stand before you representing the National Council of Negro Women. I stand before you representing the Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I stand before you as a Women's Equality Day participant and member of the task force. I stand before you as the daughter of Zora Barron Stafford, my mother. And I stand before you as a representative of the Metro Council, but more importantly, I stand before you as a woman, a very proud woman, representing each and every one of you and standing with you for democracy. We have the moment that we have been waiting for. Today, we celebrate Women's Equality Day, and we lift up the 19th Amendment. Of course, the 19th Amendment did not give us the right to vote. It just says they can't discriminate against us because of our sex. But guess what? The women's suffragists, they knew that the fight was not over. Can you imagine living back then and understanding that you were being so discriminated against that they said you could not vote? Can you imagine? Well, guess what? The women's suffragists can't imagine what's happening today. Not only did we get the right to vote, but now they're trying to take away those opportunities from us. Can you imagine living in those moments when you had to march for the right to vote? That today, that they're rolling back these opportunities for women? It's unimaginable. So women, we have work to do. We have a lot of work to do. The call to action is to grab somebody, take them to the poll, work on somebody's campaign, help them get over the finish line. And whatever you do, whatever is forcing you to understand the moment in time that we're in, capitalize on that. Share it with others. Get them excited and get them to the polls. Because when women vote, women win. When women vote, women win. When women vote, women win. Now, I'm going to say a few names. And when I call the name out, I want you all to repeat the name behind me. Nannie Helen Burroughs, an educator, suffragist, and civil rights activist. Susan B. Anthony, a suffragist and civil rights activist. Ida B. Wells, a journalist and activist for anti-racism and suffrage. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, an abolitionist, human rights activist, and a human rights, women's rights movement activist. Alice Paul, a suffrage leader, and she was once placed in solitary confinement because of the march that she created right at the White House, and she was brutally beaten. These are the sacrifices that our ancestors made for us. So we know the fight's not over. We might not get brutally, or we may get brutally beaten for the things that we do, but it's all worth the fight. Lucy Stone, pioneering abolitionist and women's rights activist. Sojourner Truth, one of the most famous abolitionists that I knew about when I was growing up, and she is so known for that prolific speech, "Ain't I a Woman?" Now, I would normally stand here and recite that for you, but I will spare you today. Come back next week. I'll do it for you. Rosa Parks, Shirley Chisholm, Carol Mosley Braun, and yes, Kamala Harris. Now I want you to place your name in it. When I say Paula McCraney, you say your name. Paula McCraney. Say it again. Say it again. These are the women that really matter, and you're going to continue to matter, and you're going to be in the history books like the other ladies, and the people will be saying that this moment in this year, 2024, we did a thing. And we did a thing that mattered, that helped us save democracy. We did a thing. We did a thing. And so we want you to do a thing on November the 5th. Do a thing. Take somebody else with you to do a thing. Now, I close with this. Women have not seen true equality yet, but we are always to keep our eye on the prize. And like the Reverend Jesse James said, keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Today, we're going to go out of here and we are going to remember what the call of action has led us to. We're going to remember what duties we have to do moving forward. There's no time for complacency. We can't continue to sit back and ask others to do what we're not willing to do. So women, what are we going to do? A thing. We're going to do We're going to do a thing. All women, I want you to stand with me right now as we recommit ourselves to action and say these words. And you put your name in the box after I say I. Say your name. I commit today to save democracy. I commit today to bring somebody along to help me save democracy. I will not squelch this moment in time. I will do the damn thing. All right, thank you, ladies. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, I do have one other thing I need to do. I'm ready to get up here and jam. I really am. But I need to do what I've been asked to do. There's a dynamic woman that we must recognize today amongst all you wonderful women. This one we want to just recognize today because she has been very diligent in her profession in getting women mobilized, trained, and involved. And I want right now for us to put our hands together and a warm welcome. Let's bring up the Office for Women, Miss Gretchen Hunt. Now, the star of today's show is Miss Janisha. Let's give her a round of applause. She kept us in line, she kept us organized, and she did the doggone thing today. She did the damn thing. And because of her leadership, we are here to recognize someone who has stepped in the gap for so many years alongside all of us to make this happen on a yearly basis. And I want Janisha to come on and recognize her.
This was not planned. I'm not a public speaker, even though I spoke at this event last year. I also cry easy, everybody. I have this weird trigger when things are like really prideful. It just tears me up, and this has been such a proud day. It's such a proud moment. On behalf of the Women's Equality Day Planning Committee, we honor Gretchen as our first ever Women's Equality Day champion.
Thank you to all of you, and let's go do the darn thing. I can't say it because I'm government. Thank you all for coming out.
Let's go out and let's do the